Good afternoon, I'm Anthony Lugg with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Up first this afternoon, former Education Minister Ruel Reid, Caribbean Maritime University President Fritz Pinnock, and their co-accused are to stand trial in the CMU Education Ministry corruption case. Chief Parish Judge Chester Crooks this morning ruled that the case is properly before the court and should proceed to trial. The other three accused in the case are Mr. Reid's wife Sharon, their daughter Cheryl, and Councillor for the Brownstone Division Kim Brown Lawrence. They are to return to the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court on July 27 for case management. Their bail was extended. Defense attorney Hugh Wildman had argued in October that the Financial Investigation Division, FID, is an investigative body and does not have legal authority to bring criminal charges or obtain a fiat from the Director of Public Prosecutions to prosecute the defendants. Mr. Wildman said the FID therefore acted illegally. Investigators are in dialogue with the Director of Public Prosecutions for a decision on whether the three persons in custody in relation to the murder of Andrea Lowe Garwood can be charged. Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime, Fritz Bailey, says a decision should come this week. DCP Bailey says detectives are continuing their questioning of the suspects, including Mrs. Lowe Garwood's stepson. The 51-year-old senior bank employee was gunned down on Sunday at the Agape Christian Fellowship Church in Falmouth, Trelawney. The police say it was a contract killing linked to a domestic dispute. The government is on a drive to improve the quality of beaches across the island to protect the island's beaches from erosion. The information was revealed at a beach access and management policy virtual town hall meeting earlier this week. O'Shane Masters reports.
There are at least 76 beaches across the island, most of them located in Portland. Beach coordinator at the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA, Charlene Roy Myrie, says several of those beaches have been experiencing severe erosion. She explains that for 20 years, NEPA has been monitoring and compiling data on at least 43 sites across 7 parishes, including Portland, which has the highest erosion rate.
Based on our trends, what we have found of the 43 sites that we're monitoring, 16 sites have been experiencing erosion. So in overall, our data shows a trend of erosion for essentially most of our sites. It's mild erosion, while chronic erosion is at 25% or greater, and we've unfortunately been seeing this in Portland. So Portland has an average of 45% approximately erosion rate. So we have identified that this erosion is an issue, and we will continue to monitor it as we go along.
In an effort to preserve the others, NEPA started maintenance work in 2019 on 15 beaches across 9 parishes.
So the works that are taking place on these beaches, including bushing and cleaning of the property, light landscaping, removal of derelict structures, painting of the structures, installation of concrete benches and tables, installation of recycling bins, garbage receptacles, and of course installation of signs.
Well aware of the goal, the Tourism Enhancement Fund will also be investing in 10 beaches over the next 3 years.
We have 10 beaches now that are in the pipeline. Watson Taylor Park in Hanover, Success in St. James, Prairie in St. Anne, Rio Nuevo in St. Mary, Murdoch Beach in St. Mary, Winifred Beach in Portland, Rocky Point in St. Thomas, Guts River in Manchester, Alligator Pond in St. Elizabeth, and Crane Road in St. Elizabeth. So if you notice, it's nicely spread over the 4 quarters of the country to ensure that most communities will have relatively easy access to one of these world-class beaches that we're developing.
The projects will be done under the Beach Access and Management Policy, which is expected to benefit everyone. The draft policy was approved by Cabinet and tabled in the House of Representatives last October. The policy covers the traditional rights of fishers, factors affecting the island's beaches, including erosion as a result of the impact of weather systems, climate change, and pollution from land-based sources. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is adamant that valiant efforts will be made to prevent the illicit trade or uneven distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine. He says measures will be in place so that those who are supposed to benefit receive their fair share. Questions arose following Dr. Tufton's announcement in the House of Representatives on Tuesday that the vaccine would be distributed through public health channels while there would be some available through private sector partnership. The concern is that the process would be corrupted and persons would pay to get access to the vaccines outside of the authorized channels. Speaking with Beyond the Headlines host Dion Jackson Miller last evening, Dr. Tufton sought to ease those concerns.
Confident that we won't see leakage of the public vaccines into the private sector for sale to rich people.
That is not in any way, shape or form a part of the plan. We will have to monitor to ensure that that does not happen. Essentially what the private sector has said, is that they are willing to put up resources, and to the extent that vaccines are available, they would like to be able to provide a quicker response to their employees and others who they depend on for opening up the economy. And, I think that's a reasonable concern.
The Health Ministry is reporting that 177 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in Jamaica yesterday. This has increased the country's case count to 16,250. Their ages range from 3 to 96 years. The corporate area recorded most of the cases with 64, followed by Clarendon with 33. The country's death toll remains at 355. No death was recorded yesterday. However, the Health Ministry says one death is being investigated. The number of persons hospitalized with a respiratory illness has increased to 116. 11 of the cases are critically ill. And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news. Two immigrant rights groups have slammed the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, for conducting deportation flights to Jamaica and Haiti. According to Haitian Bridge Alliance and the Undocumented Black Network, a deportation flight to Jamaica took place on January 28. A second deportation flight to Haiti took place on Monday. The groups are demanding that the Joe Biden administration end deportation flights and release all individuals at detention centers. The groups are also calling for the Biden administration to ensure that persons illegally deported have the right to return to the U.S. In news overseas, some members of the U.S. Congress are calling for an investigation into New York's pandemic response at nursing homes. On Wednesday, 7 Republican lawmakers from the state of New York sent a letter to the acting Attorney General asking the Justice Department to issue subpoenas to the New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, the state's Commissioner of Health, and other members of the Cuomo administration. The subpoenas request all documentation and communications related to their nursing home policies during the COVID-19 pandemic. The letter cites the New York Attorney General's report from last week that said the New York State Department of Health undercounted COVID-19 deaths among nursing home residents by approximately 50%. New York State's Health Commissioner has denied there was an undercount. And to news and sports now, the West Indies trailed Bangladesh by 355 runs with 8 first-inning wickets remaining at stumps on day 2 of the first test in Chattogram. Bangladesh, who began the day on 242 for 5, were eventually bowled out for 430. All-rounder Mahida Hassan Miraz led the way with his first test century with 103. Shakib Al-Hassan also chipped in with 68. Jamel Warrican took 4 for 133 for the Caribbean side, while Rakeem Cornwall took 2 for 114. There was also a wicket each for Jamaican Nkrumah Bonner, Kemar Roach, and Shannon Gabriel. The West Indies reached 75 for 2 at stumps, with skipper Craig Brathwaite and Bonner at the crease on 49 and 17 respectively. Jamaican John Campbell and Shane Mosley were the wickets to fall for 3 and 2 respectively. Mustafiza Rahman took 2 for 18 for the home side. Scores in the match so far, Bangladesh 430 and West Indies 75 for 2. And West Indies Test captain Jason Holder says current players are hesitant to approach legendary former players because of the constant criticisms directed at them. More in this report.
Sir Andy Roberts last month was caving in regards to Holder, suggesting that he was lost as a captain and would give him A's for interviews. However, Holder, who says he's appreciative of criticisms, was less than impressed with the approach of Roberts and other former players.
Well, my disappointment with people like with people like Andy Roberts, and I respect them for what they've contributed to the game. But I mean, as former players who've done so well, and I don't know. I'm sure that they all have positive contributions to make to West Indies cricket. But why go on these platforms, and constantly criticize and degrade the product of West Indies cricket? You know, I feel as though a lot of the time when you have the former legends comment on West Indies cricket, 99% of the time is negative.
Holder has accepted that the team is below par and admits the constant criticisms have made players timid to approach the legends.
But I think they need to do a lot better in terms of trying to build the relationship with current players. And I think they've got a lot to contribute to West Indies cricket. And for whatever reason, I don't know where is always a standoff between the past players and the current players. But I know, for instance, when I talk to players currently, they don't want to see half of the legends because they're so critical of them. And then there's a case where when we see them, it's not a case where a lot of them are approachable and you reach out to them.
The Barbadian has won only 11 of his 37 matches as Test captain and believes the Test series defeat in New Zealand recently has hurt him the most in his 5-year reign.
I was really disappointed in New Zealand. I think New Zealand was a very, very disappointing tour, and I was really, really frustrated and disappointed after that performance because the last time we went to New Zealand, we were totally outplayed, and we pretty much took the same guys there, and again we were totally outplayed again. And I felt when you have a 3-year break in between two series in one place, you know, we should have done a lot better in New Zealand. There's no excuse for the performance that we put out in New Zealand. Now we can sit back and critique it and try to pinpoint ways or reasons for the performance.
The 29-year-old is calling for more developmental work at the territorial level so the team can start challenging top nations consistently again. Jerome Foster, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.